Hello and welcome to the Beyond Shakespeare podcast, exploring sessions on this video platform, and we are looking today at Tamburlaine the Great, Act 5, and if you're very lucky you may catch on that apparently a sequel has been commissioned, and that we might go crashing into a part 2. That might very well happen. We've got a signal coming through from Marlowe that there's something on its way, so we're quite excited about that. I'm your host, Robert Crighton, and I'm here to guide you through this session. We're a little short on numbers today, so there's going to be some extreme doubling, but hopefully we're going to make this nice and clear and help guide you through where we're at. The story so far, Tamburlaine the Great has gone from being an upstart small-time bandit, shall we say, working his way up to taking out whole kingdoms, kings, and starting out relatively low, but building up to being full tyrant. He has got the King Bajazeth and his wife kept in cages, whom he is slowly starving to death, and he is currently besieging Damascus, which is also which is trying to defend itself, and there is also encamped the army of Tamburlaine's captured concubine, Zenocrate. And Zenocrate at this moment in time is wondering whether she can persuade Tamburlaine not to murder her father and all her friends and citizens. And that is sort of the dilemma of which the play left us at the end of Act 4 as we go into Act 5. Trigger warning, there is depictions or descriptions of violence, suggested sexual violence as well. This is a dark play, so you are warned. However, to guide us through that darkness, we have a wonderful team with us today. So reading the man himself, Tamburlaine, and also one of Tamburlaine's victims for this final act, Zabina, is...
Hi, my name is Sascha Cooper, and I'm an actress, dancer, choreographer, theatre director, psychic medium, reader, and holistic insightful life coach and makeup artist from Brighton in the UK, where I am for lockdown. As opposed to lots of different characters this week, I'm looking forward to getting my inner tyrant on. This should be really fun.
Okay, and reading one of his victims, Bajazeth, also a virgin, and various other characters in this act is...
Hi, my name is William Sutton, and I'm an actor, and I'm based in Amsterdam.
Lovely. And far off in the ether with just voice alone, reading Techelles in this act is...
Hi, I'm Alan Scott. I haven't trodden the boards in many, many years, but I've been doing quite a bit of voice work with Robert over the years.
And last but certainly not least, welcoming her to the stream, playing the governor and Zenocrate and various other characters in this act is...
Hi, I'm Heloise, and I am based in London, where I am currently on lockdown. I'm an actor.
Excellent. So without further ado, we will crack on with Act 5, and say I will be reading in this act second virgin. William is down as first virgin, so we'll see how that goes. So we are enter the governor of Damascus with 3 or 4 citizens and 4 virgins with branches of laurel in their hands.
Still doth this man, or rather god of war, batter our walls and beat our turrets down, and to resist with longer stubbornness or hope of rescue from the Soldan's power were but to bring our willful overthrow and make us desperate of our threatened lives. We see his tents have now been altered with terrors to the last and cruelest hue. His coal-black colours, everywhere advanced, threaten our cities with a general spoil, and if we should, with common rights of arms, offer our safeties to his clemency, I fear the custom proper to his sword, which he observes as parcel as of his fame, intending so to terrify the world by any innovation or remorse, will never be dispensed with till all our deaths. Therefore, for these our harmless virgins' sakes, whose honours and whose lives rely on him, let us have hope that their unspotted prayers, their blubbered cheeks, and hearty humble moans will melt his fury into some remorse, and use us like a loving conqueror.
If humble, sweet, or imprecations, uttered with tears of wretchedness and blood, shed from the heads and hearts of all our sex, some made your wives and some your children, might have entreated your obdurate breasts to entertain some care of our securities, whilst only danger beat upon our walls. These more than dangerous warrants of our death had never been erected as they be, nor you depend on such weak helps as we.
Well, lovely virgins, think our country's care, our love of honour, loath to be enthralled to foreign powers and rough imperious yokes, would not with too much cowardice or fear, before all hope of rescue were denied, submit yourselves and us to servitude. Therefore, in that own, your honours, liberties, and lives were weighed in equal care and balance with our own. Endure as we the malice of our stars, the wrath of Tamburlaine and power of wars, all be the means the overweighing heavens have kept to qualify these hot extremes, and bring us pardon in your cheerful looks.
Then here, before the majesty of heaven and holy patrons of Egyptia, with knees and hearts submissive, we entreat grace to our words and pity to our looks, that this device may prove propitious, and through the ears and eyes of Tamburlaine convey events of mercy to his heart. Grant that these signs of victory we yield may bind the temples of his conquering head, to hide the folded furrows of his brows, and shadow his displeased countenance with happy looks of ruth and lenity. Leave us, my lord and loving countrymen, with what simple virgins may persuade, we will.
Farewell, sweet virgins, on whose safe return depends our city.
She's frozen.
Hello, Heloise.
Heloise,
Yeah.
Sorry, you. I lost the end of your line there, I'm afraid.
Oh.
You did just freeze.
Oh, okay, I can give you, it's two, farewell, sweet virgins, on whose safe return depends our city, liberty, and lives.
Exeunt all except the virgins. Okay, we'll pause there as hopefully the gremlins will excise themselves as we have a brief natter about that introductory scene. The governor's doing an interesting idea here. Let's sacrifice some virgins to this scourge of heaven, this Tamburlaine. Thoughts about what we've just witnessed?
Realpolitik in action.
It seems like a pretty desperate stroke there. It's like they've seen the tents. Tamburlaine has this whole thing about his tent color scheme, depending on how many people he's going to kill, and it seems like this is their last throw. Do we think Tamburlaine's going to go for this?
No.
Not a Scooby.
These are sacrificial virgins.
Yeah. Okay. I think we'll move forward then into scene 2 of the act. And so the virgins and Tamburlaine will meet. There will be Techelles coming in later on, and we'll pause before we move deeper into that scene. So the stage direction reads: Enter Tamburlaine, all in black and very melancholy. Techelles, Theridamas, Usum Cassani with others.
What? Are the turtles frayed out of their nests? Alas, poor fools! Must you be first shall feel the swarm destruction of Damascus? They knew my custom. Could they not as well have sent ye out when first my milk-white flags, through which sweet mercy through her gentle beams, reflexed them on their disdainful eyes, as now when fury and incensed hate flings slaughtering terror from my coal-black tents, and tells for truth's admission come too late?
Most happy king and emperor of the earth, image of honor and nobility, for whom the powers divine have made the world, and on whose throne the holy graces sit, in whose sweet person is comprised the sum of nature's skill and heavenly majesty. Pity our plights. Oh, pity poor Damascus. Pity old age, within whose silver hairs honor and reverence evermore have reigned. Pity the marriage bed, where many a lord in prime and glory of his loving joy embraceth now with tears of ruth and blood the jealous body of his fearful wife, whose cheeks and hearts so punished with conceit, to think thy puissant never stayed arm will part their bodies, and prevent their souls from heavens of comfort yet their age might bear. Now wax all pale and withered to the death, as well for grief our ruthless governor hath thus refused the mercy of thy hand, whose sceptre angels kiss and furies dread, as for their liberties, their loves, or lives. Oh, then for these, and such as we ourselves, for us, for infants, and for all our bloods, that never nourished thought against thy rule. Pity, oh pity, sacred emperor, the prostrate service of this wretched town, and take in sign thereof this gilded wreath, whereto each man of rule hath given his hand, and wished, as worthy subjects, happy means to be investors of thy royal brows, even with the true Egyptian diadem.
Virgins, in vain you labour to prevent that which mine honour swears shall be performed. Behold my sword. What see you at the point?
Nothing but fear and fatal steel, my lord.
Your fearful minds are thick and misty then, for there sits death. There sits imperious death, keeping his circuit by the slicing edge. But I am pleased you shall not see him there. He now is seated on my horsemen's spears, and on their points his fleshless body feeds. Techelles, straight go charge a few of them, to charge these Danes and shew my servant Death, sitting in scarlet on their armoured spears.
Oh, pity us!
Away with them, I say, and shew them death!
The virgins are taken out by Techelles and others.
I will not spare these proud Egyptians, nor change my martial observations. For all the wealth of Gihon's golden waves, oh, for the love of Venus, would she leave the angry god of arms and lie with me? They have refused the offer of their lives, and know my customs are as peremptory as wrathful planets, death or destiny.
Re-enter Techelles.
What? Have your horsemen shown the virgins death?
They have, my lord, and on Damascus walls have hoisted up their slaughtered carcasses.
A sight as baneful to their souls, I think, as are Thessalian drugs or mithridate. But go, my lords, put the rest to the sword.
Exeunt all except Tamburlaine.
Oh, fair Zenocrate, divine Zenocrate. Fair is too foul an epithet for thee, that in thy passion for thy country's love, and fear to see thy kingly father's harm, with hair dishevelled wipes thy watery cheeks, and, like to Flora in her morning's pride, shaking her silver tresses in the air, rain'st on the earth resolved pearl in showers, and sprinklest sapphires on thy shining face, where beauty, mother to the muses, sits, and comments volumes with her ivory pen, taking instructions from thy flowing eyes. eyes that when Ibina steps to heaven in silence of thy solemn evening's walk, making the mantle of the richest night, the moon, the planets, and the meteors light, there angels in their crystal armors fight a doubtful battle with my tempted thoughts for Egypt's freedom and the Soldan's life, his life that so consumes Zenocrate. What is beauty, saith my sufferings then? If all the pens that ever poets held had fed the feeling of their master's thoughts, and every sweetness that inspired their hearts, their minds and muses on admired themes, if all the heavenly quintessence they still from their immortal flowers of poesy, wherein, as a mirror, we perceive the highest reaches of a human wit, if these had made one poem's period, and all combined in beauty's worthiness, yet should there hover in their restless heads one thought, one grace, one wonder at the least, which into words so virtue can digest. Oh, but how unseemly it is for my sex, my discipline in arms and chivalry, my nature and the terror of my name, to harbour thoughts effeminate and faint, save only that in beauty's just applause, with whose instinct the soul of man is touched, and every warrior that is rapt with love, of fame, of valour, and of victory, must needs have beauty beat on his conceits, I thus conceiving and subduing both, that which have stooped the chiefest of the gods, even from the fiery spangled veil of heaven, to feel the lovely warmth of shepherds' flames, and masking cottages of strawed reeds, shall give the world to note for all my birth, that virtue solely is the sum of glory, and fashions men with true nobility. Who's within there?
Enter attendants.
Hath Bajazeth been fed today?
Aye, my lord.
Bring him forth, and let us know if the town be ransacked.
And we'll pause there as the attendants go out. There's a whole series of turnarounds there. I mean, we have this, because of course the previous action with the virgins being left on stage, and then Tamburlaine enters to them. They've been left there in the place as a place of sacrifice, and we have that image there. You know, he pulls out his sword, and what do you see at the point? And asking the virgins, what do you see there? It's a very cruel act. I mean, it's one thing to kill them, but it's another thing to just make them really linger on their fate. And sorry, someone was going to say.
No, I was just saying absolutely, that's all.
Yeah, and then we get this image which, again, we have a modern resonance with use of such imagery in Handwives' Tale of the hanging corpses on the walls of the city. And then after this cruelty and the very matter of fact, are they dead? Yes, they are. Tamburlaine gets this speech.
Yeah. What is that?
Yeah, I mean, what is it? I mean, it's genuinely, I don't know. I mean, he immediately talks about Zenocrate. He's just murdered these people as an act of terror, explicitly as an act of terror to tell the people to give up, and then he goes off on this journey. I suspect there might be a bit of a text error in what I've sent you, because there seem to be a few lines missing. I'm just going to mention that in passing. I don't know if I just looked down and looked up at the wrong time and I just missed something. But
there were about 4 or 5 lines missing because I was rolling through the copy that I'd got.
Yeah, yes, there seemed to be a slight difference.
You got, I think you went, his life that so consumes Zenocrate, and then it starts again about 6 lines later.
Yeah, So after so consumes Zenocrate, whose sorrows lay more siege unto my soul than all my army in Damascus walls, and neither Persia's sovereign nor the Turk troubled my senses with conceit of foil so much by much as doth Zenocrate. What is beauty? Did you have that?
Yeah, you read that, right? Yeah.
Sure, I did. Yeah.
A reading, because I noticed that we skipped. I think I had the text version that you sent. I think this might have been a reading.
Yeah, I may just miss something there. I don't know. Anyway, I just thought I'd note it, that just for anyone watching back and might be confused, that there might have been a jump there.
Right.
But it doesn't matter, because it all seems to be following this thing, and following again his thread of, Tamburlaine is a man, he would not talk about such effeminate things, and he does seem to have a problem with his emotions, shall we say, of is he showing some level of remorse, but he's talking about it in an abstract way? What are our thoughts here, because I've been talking a lot?
I think he is. I mean, if you think about it, on the face of it, he needs to keep up an impression of this tyrant. But, I think actually in this speech he does show a lot of remorse, especially as he's thinking of Zenocrate at this point. Plus also, he's beginning to realise, I think, as the speech progresses, some of the things that he says does give an indication he is thinking of the consequences. But of course, on the front of it, he can't show that to those who work with him. He's got to give this impression that he's created. So to show weakness at this point would be completely wrong on his part, I think.
I think it's a good point, because, he becomes cruel again the moment he says who's within there, as if he's heard an attendant. Not that he's calling for attendance, that he's heard there's someone there, and therefore he must immediately say something cruel.
Yeah.
I think there's something, it's the way that it's such a quick change between, it literally, goes exit all except Tamburlaine off, it comes in straight away with going off on this kind of quite self-indulgent, but yeah, very kind of tender little soliloquy. I think, I don't know, it sort of seems almost like, because it bursts out so quickly, the thoughts about Zenocrate, that maybe it's almost like that's what's been on his mind the whole time. And he's alone, he gets a chance to express that. And yes, then the second he hears someone else there, then he has to push that down again. But I think it's just, it seems like it's almost like a reminder to the audience that there's more bubbling underneath the whole time than just complete brutality.
Because that then informs Tamburlaine's opening when he first comes on, when he's saying, what are the turtles afraid out of their nest? Alas, poor fools. It's like he's come on and he sees these sacrifices and goes, I'm going to have to kill them because I said I will. And that actually underneath everything that he says here is on some level of front. Of course, the question here is, if you're pretending all the time to be a tyrant, you're still a tyrant, no matter how nice you might think you are inside.
Yeah, and it's almost worse. He seems to have the capability to feel, quite sort of human, loving emotions, and then he does everything anyway. It's not like he's a complete psychopath who has no sense of the evil that he's doing. He's more.
I must admit,
therefore more.
I'm maybe looking at it from a very much more cynical viewpoint, that a lot of this could be, oh, wait a minute, what if I upset the missus?
I would say that if she was there, but she's not.
He could be musing on the consequences of if he's upset her. Are there going to be consequences for him personally?
because his relationship with Zenocrate is, shall we say, very complex.
Well, quite.
And I think we're about to come up to that. We have, however, the coming up to the ultimate, the reappearance of Bajazeth and Zabina. So there's a brief introductory moment for them before they're left alone. So we'll just do this little scenette here. Enter Techelles, Theridamas, Ansum Cassani, and others.
The town is ours, my lord, and fresh supply of conquest and of spoil is offered us.
That's well, Techelles. What's the news?
The Soldan and the Arabian king together march on us with such eager violence, as if there were no way but one with us.
No more there is not, I warrant thee, Techelles.
And attendants bring in Bajazeth in his cage, followed by Zabina, exeunt attendants. Oh, and it's me.
Ha!
We know the victory is ours, my lord. Is it me?
Yes.
Yes, it is. We know the victory is ours, my lord, but let us save the Reverend Soldan's life for fair Zenocrate that so laments his state.
That will we chiefly see unto, Theridamas, for sweet Zenocrate, whose worthiness deserves a conquest over every heart. And now, my footstool, if I lose the field, you hope of liberty and restitution? Here, let him stay, my masters, from the tents, till we have made us ready for the field. Pray for us, Bajazeth. We are going.
And exeunt all except Bajazeth and Zabina. We'll just pause there. So once again, we're having an offstage battle.
Oh, yes.
So this is a parallel to the earlier scene of Zabina and Zenocrate sort of having tea and crumpets while the battle goes off in the distance. So it's interesting. The others are bringing up again that fair Zenocrate is worried about the Sultan. It's like they're hinting to Tamburlaine, you know, you've got a mini crisis amidst this battle that we're going to go to now. Okay. Unless I hear any additional thoughts, we will go into the Bajazeth and Zabina. So Bajazeth is William and Sascha. You're now switching from Tamburlaine. You're now going to be your enemy's wife.
Here we go.
Go, never to return with victory. Millions of men encompass thee about, and gore thy body with as many wounds. Sharp forked arrows light upon thy horse. Furies from the black Cocytus lake break up the earth, and with their firebrands enforce thee run upon the baneful pikes.
He's all frozen.
Yeah, I think we've lost you again. I think you might have to go to visual silent.
Is. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you again now, sir.
Yeah, well, okay, perfect. Should I start the speech again, or?
Yeah, go from the top. Go from the top.
All right, here we go. Go, never to return with victory. Millions of men encompass thee about, and gore thy body with as many wounds. Sharp forked arrows light upon thy horse. Furies from the black Cocytus lake break up the earth, and with their firebrands enforce thee run upon the baneful pikes. Volleys of shot pierce through thy charmed skin, and every bullet dipped in poisoned drugs. Or roaring cannons sever all thy joints, making thee mount as high as eagles soar.
Let all the swords and lances in the field stick in his breast as in their proper rooms. At every pore let blood come dropping forth, that lingering pains may massacre his heart, and madness send his damned soul to hell.
Ah, fair Zabina, we may curse his power, the heavens may frown, the earth for anger quake. But such a star hath influence in his sword as rules the skies and countermands the gods more than Cimmerian Styx or destiny. And then shall we in this detested guise, with shame, with hunger, and with horror stay, griping our bowels with retorqued thoughts, and have no hope to end our ecstasies.
Then is there left no Mohammed, no God, no fiend, no fortune, nor no hope of end to our infamous, monstrous slaveries. Gape earth, and let the fiends infernal view a hell as hopeless and as full of fear as are the blasted banks of Erebus, where shaking ghosts with ever howling groans hover above the ugly ferryman to get a passage to Elysium. Why should we live? Oh, wretches, beggars, slaves! Why live we, Bajazeth, and build up nests so high within the region of the air, by living long in this oppression, that all the world will see and laugh to scorn the former triumphs of our mightiness in this obscure infernal servitude?
Oh, life, more loathsome to my vexed thoughts the noisome parbreak of the Stygian snakes, which fills the nooks of hell with standing air, infecting all the ghosts with cureless griefs. Oh, dreary engines of my loathed sight, that see my crown, my honor, and my name thrust under yoke and thraldom of a thief, why feed ye still on day's accursed beams, and sink not quite into my tortured soul? You see my wife, my queen and empress, brought up and propped by the hand of fame, queen of 15 contributory queens, now thrown to rooms of black abjection, smeared with blots of basest drudgery, and villainous to shame, disdain, and misery. Accursed Bajazeth, whose words of ruth that with pity cheer Zabina's heart, and make our souls resolve in ceaseless tears. Sharp hunger bites upon and gripes the root from whence the issues of my thoughts do break. Oh, poor Zabina! Oh, my queen! My queen! Fetch me some water for my burning breast to cool and comfort me with longer date, that in the shortened sequel of my life I may pour forth my soul into thine arms with words of love, whose moaning intercourse hath hitherto been stayed with wrath and hate of our expressless banned inflictions.
Sweet Bajazeth, I will prolong thy life as long as any blood or spark of breath can quench or cool the torments of my grief.
Now, Bajazeth, abridge thy baneful days, and beat the brains out of thy conquered head, since other means are all forbidden me, that may be ministers of my decay. O highest lamp of ever-living Jove, accursed day, infected with my griefs, hide now thy stained face in endless night, and shut the windows of the lightsome heavens. Let ugly darkness with her rusty coach, and girt with tempests, wrapped in pitchy clouds, smother the earth with never-fading mists, and let her horses from their nostrils breathe rebellious winds and dreadful thunderclaps, that in this terror Tamburlaine may live, and my pined soul, resolved in liquid air, may still excruciate his tormented thoughts. Then let the stony dart of senseless cold pierce through the center of my withered heart, and make a passage for my loathed life.
And he brains himself against the cage. Re-enter Zabina.
What do mine eyes behold? My husband, dead! His skull all riven in twain, his brains dashed out, the brains of Bajazeth, my lord and sovereign. Oh, Bajazeth, my husband and my lord, Oh, Bajazeth! Oh, Turk! Oh, Emperor! Give him his liquor, not I. Bring milk and fire, and my blood I bring him again. Tear me in pieces. Give me the sword with a ball of wildfire upon it. Down with him! Down with him! Go to my child. Away, away, away! Oh, save that infant! Save him, save him! I, even I, speak to her. The sun was down, streamers white, red, black. Here, here, here! Fling the meat in his face! Tamburlaine! Tamburlaine! Let the soldiers be buried. Hell, death, Tamburlaine, hell! Make ready my coach, my chair, my jewels. I come, I come, I come!
She runs against the cage and brains herself. And we'll just pause there because there's a lot of stuff there. I mean, you've got some really big set pieces there, and this is very much a place for you to really go for it in all sorts of different ways. It's both pathetic and pathetic at the same time. It's this question: is it horror? Is it comedy? Something that we get a lot with Marlowe is that where do you place the tone? Bajazeth just doesn't stop with the pouring forth of the bile. He just hasn't stopped from the moment we met him. It's just got faster and faster as he goes. And there's a question, I think, for William to ask. At what point does he decide to lie to Zabina to get her out of the way to get some water? At what point does he decide he's going to kill himself during this scene?
Oh, that's a very good question. I had not anticipated that question.
Yeah.
And now I have to go back and search the text for that moment.
I mean, we don't have to find an answer, but I think there is a question there as to he is lying to her to get rid of her so that he can kill himself. Because while you're having a little hunt, Zabina's speech is very different because it goes out of verse. It's all jumbled prose and thoughts and random. And where do you place yourself? It's a very different kind of death speech.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Zabina, she has because obviously this is quite a shock for her. And I think Marlowe has actually gone really, really clever on this in the sense, in fact, because you know how the name that shall not be mentioned was playing with blank verse as well in some of his plays. Marlowe here, in many ways, actually goes further than the person who shall not be mentioned. And actually, exactly, who shall not be mentioned. And basically, he goes a bit more crazy with it. I mean, if you, for those of you who are following along with the text, if you have a look at Zabina's speech, the structural thing, she starts off verse because obviously she's found her husband's death. But soon as everything kicks in, she's no longer thinking straight. So I think this is why she then goes into this rather experimental unconscious train of thought. I would class this as an unconscious train of thought, especially as she keeps flipping. Her mind keeps flipping to several things. It's like so many things are happening at once that the way Marlowe's constructed it, I think he's done it very, very well in the sense he's captured the chaoticness of a mindset of somebody who's literally just found the person that they love dead. And they're no longer thinking, they're no longer rational. It's that explosion.
Yeah, because she's remembering things that have been said. There's almost the give him his liquor, go for a drink. That's what he sent me to do. And then it goes to it's flying with emotions as well as random thoughts and things that happen to them in their captivity. And it's like this is the straw that breaks the camel's back. where she's been so strong before.
There's so much repetition in there, though, within the like chunk of prose, that it kind of almost has its own. It still has a rhythm. It still has a kind of, it's sort of poetic feeling. It's more like, I mean, seeing it written down, following along with the text, it literally kind of almost looks more like a Beckett monologue.
Yeah.
Like the way it's all, the way that it repeats so much. And
no, not I.
Yes.
That actually looks like not I. Down with him, go to my child, away, save, it just goes on.
It's madness in many ways, actually.
I think so too.
I mean, you're quite right there, Heloise, because it is almost kind of that abstract feeling. But if you look at the emotional side of it, yes, whilst there is a rhythm, there is still that chaotic mindset, and because she's flipping all the time, it does have a sense of the rhythm in many respects, but it's still chaotic, which for somebody who's playing Zabina might be quite interesting to have a little bit of a play with. Do you stick fully to the rhythm, or do you just purely go with emotional gut instinct on this one? I think there's several ways you can play it, I think.
Especially as you can never be really sure when it comes to any sort of O's or exclamatory sounds, precisely what they would be, or how much you could improvise around dancing that. Going back to Bajazeth, who had very much a journey in. Any thoughts, William? Now you've had
now that I've looked at it, I really think it's when he says, "Ah, fair Zabina, we may curse his power and the heavens may frown the earth at that." So he comes back again with like, you know what? We can give him all this shit that we want to give him, but it's already in the stars. We're coming back to that whole prophesying through the stars idea, and it's at that moment where he says, "And have no hope to end our ecstasies." And from there on in, the negative comes in. Zabina responds with, "No Muhammad, no God, no fiend, no fortune, no hope of end." And then he starts in with the emotional response. And I think that already when he's got no hope, and she sort of agrees with him in a sense, that he then says, "This is it. I'm ending it right here." And that's where we get the "Oh life, oh dreary engines of my loathed sight, oh poor Zabina." They said this is all a lead up to, I've got to get it, I've got to do it, and then crushes himself against the cage. I mean, it's...
Yeah. And again, we still have the visual dimension. He's in the cage, she's outside, and has some sort of a different kind of torture is going on with her, so that she has freedom of movement, he doesn't, and it creates a very stark image. Again, a very Beckett. I think Beckett is a really nice touchstone for this, actually.
I do.
However, I think we do need to rattle towards the end.
Yes, we do.
If Heloise, you can read Anippi, Anippi, or however we wish to say her name, for this little CNET. We'll go down and see where we go with this, because Zenocrate now is going to enter. Oh, you can't be Anippi as well, can you? You're talking.
No, you asked me to do that.
I asked you to randomly be that. Yes. That would be sensible.
Am I anybody in this particular one?
This for the moment, no. We'll be with you in just a moment. We're just going to do this little Zenocrate sectionette as one little unit. So Zenocrate comes in and discovers this horrific scene.
Sorry. Wretched Zenocrate, that livest to see Damascus's walls dyed with Egyptians' blood, thy father's subjects are thy countrymen. The streets strode with dissevered joints of men, and wounded bodies gasping yet for life. But most accursed, to see the sun-bright troop of heavenly virgins and unspotted maids, whose looks might make the angry god of arms to break his sword and mildly treat of love, on horsemen's lances to be hoisted up and guiltlessly endure a cruel death. For every fell and stout Tartarian steed, that stamped on others with their thundering hoofs, when all their riders charged their quivering spears, began to check the ground and rein themselves, gazing upon the beauty and of their looks. O Tamburlaine, wert thou the cause of this? What term'st Zenocrate thy dearest love, whose lives were dearer to Zenocrate than her own life, or aught save thine own love? But see, another bloody spectacle. O wretched eyes, the enemies of my heart, how are ye glutted with these grievous objects, and tell my soul more tales of bleeding truth? See, Anippi, if they breathe or no.
No breath, nor sense, nor motion in them both. Ah, madam, this their slavery hath enforced, and ruthless cruelty of Tamburlaine.
Earth, cast up fountains from thy entrails, and wet thy cheeks for their untimely deaths. Shake with their weight in sign of fear and grief. Blush, heaven, that gave them honour at their birth, and let them die a death so barbarous. Those that are proud of fickle empery and place their chiefest good in earthly pomp, behold the Turk and his great empress. O Tamburlaine, my love, sweet Tamburlaine, that fightest for sceptres and for slippery crowns, behold the Turk and his great empress. Thou that, in conduct of thy happy stars, sleepest every night with conquest on thy brows, and yet wouldst shun the wavering turns of war in fear and feeling of the like distress, behold the Turk and his great empress. O mighty Jove and holy Mahomet, pardon my love. O pardon his contempt of earthly fortune and respect of pity, and let not conquest, ruthlessly pursued, be equally against his life incensed in this great Turk and hapless empress. And pardon me, that was not moved with ruth to see them live so long in misery. Oh, what may chance to thee, Zenocrate?
Madam, content yourself and be resolved. Your love hath fortune so at his command, that she shall stay and turn her wheel no more, as long as life maintains his mighty arm that fights for honour to adorn your head.
We'll just pause there before the random person enters in a moment. So Zenocrates come in from the walls of Damascus and all the dead people that you've seen there, and then it almost seems to be like, and here's some more dead people. You know, I don't know where to place that in tonally. It's just the horror on a sort of different level of telescoping there, and then she's asking for pardon for Tamburlaine. All sorts of questions there. Thoughts from the room before we move on.
I think the Stockholm syndrome was mentioned yesterday, and I think that is possibly where it's at.
I'm of two minds now, because that speech of Tamburlaine's, I don't think he was necessarily showing remorse for the virgins, rather than he was declaring his love for Zenocrate. This was really the inmost heart of Tamburlaine has been stolen by Zenocrate. And I think, as weird as it is, she too has fallen in love with him. And it's this, how can we reconcile a love that is so wrong? I mean, so much that's keeping them back from when they should actually be saying, like, oh my God, you're a monster. But they're not. They just love one another. I find this a really fascinating love story all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think Zenocrate seems quite, I don't think it is sort of a Stockholm syndrome thing, because I think she seems kind of all too aware of the evil, of how evil he is, and also seems very aware of, the fact that what he wants is something that's probably inevitably not going to, him constantly pursuing greater and greater power it can't end well. You know, he fighteth for sceptres and for slippery crowns. I think she seems like she has a sort of impending sense of doom. Which is interesting because it might also be, you know, it's getting to the end of the play. It seems so far like he's this person who, you know, Tamburlaine's this person who's greatly overreached, you know, their rightful place as being just born a shepherd. The audience might be at this point kind of thinking, okay, when's his downfall going to happen? And I think her thoughts kind of seem to mirror that.
Okay, we're going to take Zenocrate on a slightly extended part of her journey now, because she's going to have some news about the battle, and also she's going to, after a brief bit of battling, going to encounter someone who she will witness dying. So, William, I think you're down for Philemus. And I'll read The King of Arabia coming up. So, enter Philemus.
What other heavy news now brings Philemus?
Madam, your father and the Arabian king, the first effector of your excellence, come now as Turnus against Aeneas did, armed with lance into the Egyptian fields, ready for battle against my lord the king.
Now shame and duty, love and fear present 1,000 sorrows to my martyred soul. Whom should I wish the fatal victory, when my poor pleasures are divided thus and racked by duty from my cursed heart? My father and my first betrothed love must fight against my life and present love, wherein the change I use condemns my faith and makes my deeds infamous through the world. But, as the gods, to end the Trojans' toils, prevented Turnus of Lavinia, and fatally enriched Aeneas' love, so, for a final issue to my griefs, to pacify my country and my love, must Tamburlaine, by their resistless powers, with virtue of a gentle victory, conclude a league of honour to my hope. Then, as the powers of divine have preordained, with happy safety of my father's life, send like defence of fair Arabia.
And then there's the sound of battle within. Tamburlaine enjoys the victory, after which the King of Arabia enters wounded. That's battle. That's battle. What cursed power guides the murdering hands of this infamous tyrant's soldiers, that no escape may save their enemies, nor fortune keep themselves from victory? Lie down, Arabia, wounded to the death, and let Zenocrate's fair eyes behold that as for her thou bearest these wretched arms, even so for her thou diest in these arms, leaving thy blood for witness of thy love.
Zenocrate.
Oh, sorry.
I'm dying for your love here.
Do this for such love, my lord. Behold, Zenocrate, the cursed object whose fortunes never mastered her griefs. Behold her wounded in conceit for thee as much as thy fair body is for me.
Then shall I die with full contented heart, having beheld divine Zenocrate, whose sight with joy would take away my life, as now it bringeth sweetness to my wound, if I had not been wounded as I am. Ah, that the deadly pangs I suffer now would lend an hour's license to my tongue to make discourse of some sweet accident, have chanced thy merits in this worthless bondage, and that I might be privy to the state of thy deserved contentment and thy love, but making now a virtue of thy sight, to drive all sorrow from my fainting soul, since death denies me further cause of joy. Deprived of care, my heart with comfort dies, since thy desired hand shall close mine eyes. And he dies. So again, Zenocrate is being presented with a series of images, a series of events, and a series of reactions. So first the walls of Damascus, the bodies there. Then the dead bodies of Bajazeth, then the news of battle being joined, and then it is her affianced, isn't it? That we're
I
talking
think
about
so,
here?
yes.
Yeah. Comes in and dies in front of her.
Yeah.
And so it's even though she's not, I don't think she says very much more. It's all visually being presented with her, which I find really interesting. Any additional thoughts before we crack on to the end?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay, then re-enter Tamburlaine, leading the Soldan, Techelles, Theridamas, Cassini with others.
Come, happy father Zenocrate, a title higher than thy Soldan's name, though my right hand have thus enthralled thee. Thy princely daughter here shall set thee free, she that hath calmed the fury of my sword, which had ere this been bathed in streams of blood as vast and deep as Euphrates or Nile.
O sight thrice welcome to my joyful soul, to see the king, my father, issue safe from dangerous battle of my conquering love.
O Met, my only dear Zenocrate, though with the loss of Egypt and my crown.
'Twas I, my lord, that gat the victory, and therefore grieve not at your overthrow, since I shall render all into your hands, and add more strength to your dominions than ever yet confirmed the Egyptian crown. The god of war resigns his room to me, meaning to make me general of the world. Jove, viewing me in arms, looks pale and wan, fearing my power should pull him from his throne. Whene'er I come, the fatal sisters sweat at grisly death by running to and fro to do their ceaseless homage to my sword. And here in Afrique, where it seldom rains, since I arrived with my triumphant host, have swelling clouds drawn from wide gaping wounds be oft resolved in bloody purple showers, a meteor that might terrify the earth, and make it quake at every drop it drinks. Millions of souls sit on the banks of Styx, waiting the back return of Charon's boat. Hell and Elysium swarm with ghosts of men that I have sent from sundry Fulton fields to spread my fame through hell and up to heaven. And see, my lord, a sight of strange import. Emperors and kings lie breathless at my feet. The Turk and his great empress, as it seems, left to themselves while we were at the fight, have desperately dispatched their slavish lives. With them Arabia too hath left his life. All sights of power to grace my victory, and such are objects fit for Tamburlaine, wherein as a mirror may be seen his honour that consists in shedding blood where men presume to manage arms with him.
Mighty hath God and Mahomet made thy hand, renowned Tamburlaine, to whom all kings of force must yield their crowns and emperies. And I am pleased with this my overthrow, if, as beseems a person of thy state, thou hast with honour used Zenocrate.
Her state and person want no pomp, you see, and all for blot of foul inchastity. I record heaven, her heavenly self is clear. Then let me find no further time to grace her princely temples with the Persian crown. But hear these kings that on my fortunes wait, and have been crowned for proved worthiness even by this hand that shall establish them, shall now, adjoining all their hands with mine, invest her here, the queen of Persia. What saith the noble Soldan and Zenocrate?
I yield with thanks and protestations of endless honour to thee for her love.
Then doubt I not but fair Zenocrate will soon consent to satisfy us both.
Else should I much forget myself, my lord.
Then let us set the crown upon her head that long have lingered for so high a seat.
My hand is ready to perform the deed, for now her marriage time shall work its rest.
And here's the crown, my lord, help set it on.
Then sit thou down, divine Zenocrate. And here we crown thee Queen of Persia, and all the kingdoms and dominions that late the power of Tamburlaine subdued, as Juno, when the giants were suppressed, that darted mountains at her brother Jove. So looks my love, shadowing in her brows triumphs and trophies for my victories. Or as Latona's daughter bent to arms, adding more courage to my conquering mind, to gratify thee, sweet Zenocrate, Egyptians, Moors, and men of Asia, from Barbary unto the western India, shall pay a yearly tribute to thy sire, and from the bounds of Afrique to the banks of Ganges shall his mighty arm extend. And now, my lords and loving followers, that purchased kingdoms by your martial deeds, cast off your armour, put on scarlet robes, mount up your royal places of estate, environed with troops of noblemen, and there make laws to rule your provinces. Hang up your weapons on Alcides' posts, for Tamburlaine takes truce with all the world. Thy first betrothed love, Arabia, shall we with honour, as beseems, entomb with this great Turk and his fair empress. Then, after all these solemn exequies, we will our rite of marriage solemnize.
And thus we snatch a happy
Wow.
ending from this, sort of. So many things there. Tamburlaine's just casual. Oh, look, there's some more dead bodies lying around on the stage there. Well, someone needs to get a clean-up crew in for that. There's the reference to Soldan asking whether Tamburlaine has abused Zenocrate in any way, and he gives such an equivocal answer.
Yeah.
There.
Right.
Like, it doesn't really matter, because, heaven doesn't care, kind of thing. Soldan saying he's pleased that this is occurring, and I'm going, yeah, you're just saying that because you know there is no route out. So yeah, but he comes in and just immediately pardons Daddy, and suddenly all is right with the world. But it's not, and it's this juxtaposition of what looks like a happy ending, but it's full of problems. Thoughts.
I think there's definitely a political angle happening here again. But because now Tamburlaine's at a position where his power, how I think we talked about this yesterday, but you know how certain things happen in a sequence, and we talked a lot about the power going to his head. Well, now, I mean, come on, he's at the highest he can be right now. So.
Right.
So he's kind of at this point, although I think there's a double-edged sword going on here. Partially, he is doing this for his wife, but at the same time, there's something else going on there. In the sense of, because he talks about now ruling the world. Now, he's finally stated it in the text. So we know now that whilst he's at this stage, he's on a good level, he's on the way up, but maybe, as we'll see in the sequel, there will be a fall.
There's going to be a sequel. Oh, that's been confirmed, has it? Oh, that's fabulous.
Apparently
but
so,
as a single text and this journey that did even a few pages ago, did we see that this is where it was going to end? Did we see that the Soldan was going to be saved? Did we expect that to happen? Because you kind of expect him to horribly die, or that there's all sorts of endings that this could have led to.
Yeah, but then if it had just been a complete death, then you fall into the trap as a writer of following a pattern. So why not switch it up a bit? Why not actually show that he does have a side where he can save people? But as again it states in the text, from a lot of what he says, he's doing this purely for his own benefit, really. He's not really doing it for anybody else apart, well, maybe his wife a little bit, but that's only a minor thing. No.
Yeah. It's all on him. It's all on him. William, how did you find that?
I was actually expecting, just as a reader, I was expecting the Soldan to bite the dust. Basically, yeah, it's kind of a forced happy ending, is what I feel, and it's tied up a little bit too neatly, and that you are left with, this must be, he already knew that he was writing a sequel. You know, there's no way he could have just ended this thing and ended it in a way that everybody would have been happy in the audience.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that, because I must admit my feeling right the way through, and I'm probably unlike most of the rest of you in as much I haven't actually read ahead, so I've been actually reading it as we've been doing it, is I've thought from the point I joined yesterday that effectively this was going to be, you know, a parable on hubris, which we haven't yet seen resolve.
Exactly.
And it's the thing that it's that idea of it's a fake happy ending, isn't it? There's so many dead bodies littering the stage, not from honest battle, but because they killed themselves in despair and compromise. And the Soldan's sort of very forced. Of course, I'm happy that you're now my son. Of course, it's fine. And I think that's quite clever as well. I think that's really interesting. Heloise, any thoughts from having come in?
Just the kind of false happy ending thing. I think it's only Tamburlaine's happy ending. I feel like everyone, from all the characters on stage to the audience themselves, would probably be watching. I don't know. You sort of get an image of everyone on stage and off, standing around just watching Tamburlaine and feeling varying levels of either just dissatisfied and thinking this is not how this is not how I expected this to wrap up, and this doesn't seem right that you've just gotten, you know, what you want, to kind of the Soldan potentially feeling, you know, still furious and terrified inside.
It's also interesting as Zenocrate that you go from these long speeches and then Daddy is released. You get these 3 lines of joy, and then this final line, "Else should I much forget myself, my lord," where you're offered the crown, you're given all the nice things. And we don't really get any internal from the text what's going on with Zenocrate there at all. We have to ask the actor to make a narrative there.
The final line seems, else should I much forget myself, my lord. I don't know. That's I think that line's very open to tell you a lot about what she's internally feeling.
But as it happens, the author has given us a second part.
Yay!
So I'm going to ask everyone to just take a breath in.
Got it.
Right. Give us a moment or two.
Yeah. The first play is over, and I'm now going to ask you all to pretend that you've heard about part 1, but you never caught it in the theatre. You've never seen it. You've heard it was fabulous, but you could only get tickets to see part 2. So I want you to, you know vaguely what happened in the first play, but for part 2, you've no idea. All you've seen is on the postings on the equivalent of lampposts of the time, things like second part of Tamburlaine the Great, the second part of the bloody conquest of mighty Tamburlaine, with his impassionate fury for the death of his lady and love fair Zenocrate, his form of exhortation and discipline to his 3 sons, and the manner of his own death. And there's no pretending that this is a different arc to part 1. So we're going to start with another prologue. Nice, short and sweet. And I think Sasha's down to do the prologue.
Yep. The general welcome.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I beg pardon. I didn't get any role here. You're just.
Yeah, no, I'll come to that when we come to the next scene.
Sorry.
I'll do it scene by scene because
Okay.
I don't know how far we're going to get with this act. I don't think we'll complete Act 1.
Okay.
Right, so we want to open up Tamburlaine 2.
Yes.
Right. Just one quick thought, actually, that occurred to me. Zenocrate's attitude, in some ways, is a much more modern reference that I can think of. I don't know if anybody else knows the album of Berlin cabaret songs by Uta Lemper, but there's one on there called Attila the Hun, which is well worth a listen on general principles anyway, but does actually have some resonance with her attitudes in some ways.
Interesting.
Well, there's a line in there. I don't think it's Brecht and Weil, but it's that sort of genre. A cute little brute who knows how to shoot, my Attila, my Hun. But it's worth looking that one out. It's quite a jolly piece.
Yes. Okay, so into the prologue for part 2. And let's see how the audience is introduced to this narrative.
The general welcomes Tamburlaine received, when he arrived last upon the stage, have made our poet pen his second part, where death cuts off the progress of his pomp, and murderous fates throw all his triumphs down. But what become of fair Zenocrate? And with how many cities' sacrifice he celebrated her sad funeral, himself in presence shall unfold at large.
So we can assume that the audience is pre-primed that Zenocrate is going to snuff it, but otherwise everything's going in a downward arc, and the audience is told that from the very, very start. We're not going to see Tamburlaine for a while. We may not actually reach Tamburlaine's entrance this afternoon. So we're going to go into scene 1. So I've got William down as Orcanes.
Okay.
I've got Alan down as Gazellus.
Yep.
And I put if Heloise could do Eurybassa. I don't know how to pronounce these things, so have fun with that. There's a few lines there. And that should get us through this first scene, if we are all relatively together.
Right,
I will read.
ready.
Everyone ready?
Yep.
Okay, I'll read the stage direction. Enter Orcanes, king of Natolia, Gazellus, viceroy of Byron, Eurybassa and their train, with drums and trumpets.
Egregious viceroys of these eastern parts, placed by the issue of great Bajazeth, and sacred lord the mighty Calipine, who lives in Egypt, prisoner to that slave, which kept his father in an iron cage. Now have we marched from fair Natolia, 200 leagues, and on Danubius banks our warlike host, in complete armour, rest, where Sigismund, the king of Hungary, should meet our person to conclude a truce. What? Shall we parle with the Christian, or cross the stream and meet him in the field?
King of Natolia, let us treat of peace. We are all glutted with Christians' blood, and we have a greater foe to fight against. Proud Tamburlaine, that now in Asia, near Gyron's head, doth set his conquering feet, and means to fire Turkey as he goes. Against him, my lord, you must address your power.
Besides, King Sigismund hath brought from Christendom more than his camp of stout Hungarians, Sclavonians, Ulmaeans, Reuters, Muffs, and Danes, that with the halberd, lance, and murdering axe will hazard with surety hold.
Though from the shortest northern parallel, vast grant land, compassed with the frozen sea, inhabited with tall and sturdy men, giants as big as huge Polypheme, Millions of soldiers cut the Arctic line, bringing the strength of Europe to these arms. Our turkey blades shall glide through all their throats and make this champion mead a bloody fen. The Nubius stream that runs to Trebizond shall carry, wrapped within his scarlet waves, as martial presents to our friends at home, the slaughtered bodies of these Christians. The Tyrrhene main, wherein Danubius falls, shall by this battle be the bloody sea. The wandering sailors of proud Italy shall meet those Christians, fleeting with the tide, beating in heaps against their argosies, and make fair Europe, mounted on her bull, trapped with the wealth and riches of the world, alight, and wear a woeful mourning weed.
Yet, stout Orcanes, prorex of the world, since Tamburlaine hath mustered all his men, marching from Cairo northward with his camp to Alexandria and the frontier towns, meaning to make conquest of our land, 'tis requisite to poll for a peace with Sigismund, the King of Hungary, and save not our forces for the hot assaults proud Tamburlaine intends Natolia.
Viceroy of Byron, wisely hast thou said. My realm, the centre of our empery, once lost, all Turkey would be overthrown, and for that cause the Christians shall have peace. Sclavonians, Almans, Rutters, Muffs and Danes, fear not Orcanes, but great Tamburlaine, nor he, but fortune that had made him great. We have revolted Grecians, Albanese, Sicilians, Jews, Arabians, Turks, and Moors, Natolians, Saurians, Black Egyptians, Illyrians, Thracians, and Bithynians, enough to swallow forceless Sigismund, yet scarce enough to encounter Tamburlaine. He brings a world of people to the field, from Scythia to the oriental plage of India, where raging Lanchidol beats on the regions with his boisterous blows that never seaman yet discovered. All Asia is in arms with Tamburlaine, even from the midst of fiery Cancer's tropic to Amazonia under Capricorn, and thence, as far as Archipelago, all Afric is in arms with Tamburlaine. Therefore, Viceroy, the Christians must have peace.
And there, so we sort of reached the end of this particular unit of action as we have an entrance of some additional people. So we'll just take a little pause there. We're being thrown into politics from the very off. We have a little bit of a name drop of some chap called Bajazeth. I don't know what that's about, but apparently his son's a prisoner of somewhere else. That might get a call back later. But Orcanes, or however we want to go with pronunciation of that, is very clear. We have a greater... We were all doing all these lovely wars. We were having so much fun. But now Tamburlaine, he's just this massive threat. We've got to do something about Tamburlaine. So thoughts about this little... how to open a play called Tamburlaine the Great?
Gobsmacked. What a man. This Orcanes who's coming out like, I'm gonna do it myself. Well, maybe not. I'll wait for everybody else as well. But I mean it. Strange.
Yeah, and he does these long lists. You know, it's that all these people, they're enough to swallow Sigismund, who we're not that fussed about, but what about? Oh, they're not enough to take out Tamburlaine. You know, we really need more people. He's not. I mean, he's sensible. He knows his enemy's massive.
Right.
It's a really interesting way to start a play. This is your focus. I find that really interesting.
especially after, given that just in the prologue, I think only two characters are mentioned in the prologue, Tamburlaine and Zenocrate, and you have this first scene, and where are they?
Yeah, they get a lot of a name check, or Tamburlaine does, but we're getting the Resistance. This is sort of like opening on Star Wars, and we're watching the Resistance to the evil Empire getting together.
Right.
Yeah.
So, William, were you saying something?
No, I was agreeing with the Star Wars beginning. I like that.
You've also got the issue almost, which is being put forward, of my enemy's enemy is my friend.
Yeah. It's this is a grand coalition.
What history? You know, there's the bad guy over there. We've all got to unite to fight him.
But the question is how much are these people going to unite? Because they sound like they're not friends really the rest of the time. So
so the audience gets a real sense that this is a world that's been thrown up into complete, or the natural order of things have been completely thrown over because this person Tamburlaine is so great and so terrible.
Okay, so the scene opens up with the entrance of some new people, and so Heloise, I think you're reading Sigismund. Alan, I've slightly mucked up, so if you can continue reading Gazellus, and I'll read Frederick for what's coming up. I think that works. Otherwise, everyone should remain the same, I think. So, enter Sigismund, Frederick, Baldwin, who I don't think says anything, and their train with drums and trumpets.
Orcanes, as our legates promised thee, we, with our peers, have crossed Danubus' stream to treat of friendly peace or deadly war, take which thou wilt. For, as the Romans used, I here present thee with a naked sword. Wilt thou have a war? Then shake this blade at me. If peace, restore it to my hands again, and I will sheathe it to confirm the same.
Stay, Sigismund. Forget'st thou I am he that with the cannon shook Vienna walls, and made it dance upon the continent, as when the massy substance of the earth quivers about the axletree of heaven? Forget'st thou that I sent a shower of darts, mingled with powdered shot and feathered steel, so thick upon the blink-eyed burghers' heads, that thou thyself, then County Palatine, the King of Boheme, and the Austric Duke sent heralds out, which basely on their knees in all your names desired a truce of me? Forget'st thou that? To have me raise my siege, wagons of gold were set before my tent, stamped with the princely fowl that in her wings carries the fearful thunderbolts of Jove? How canst thou think of this and offer war?
Vienna was besieged and I was there, then country palatine, but now a king. And what we did was in extremity, but now, Orcanes, view my royal host, that hides these plains, and seems as vast and wide as doth the deserts of Arabia to those that stand on Bajazeth's lofty tower, or as the ocean to the traveller that rests upon the snowy Apennines. And tell me whether I should stoop so low, or treat of peace with the Natolian king.
Kings of Natolia and of Hungary, we came from Turkey to confirm a league, and not to dare each other to the field. A friendly parle might become you both.
And we from Europe to the same intent, which if your general refuse or scorn, our tents are pitched, our men stand in array, ready to charge you ere you stir your feet.
So pressed are we, but yet, if Sigismund speak as a friend, and stand not upon terms, here is his sword. Let peace be ratified on these conditions specified before, drawn with advice of our ambassadors.
Then here I sheathe it. and give thee my hand, never to draw it out, or manage arms against thyself or thy confederates, but, whilst I live, will be at truce with thee.
But, Sigismund, confirm it with an oath, and swear in sight of heaven and by thy Christ.
By him that made the world and saved my soul, the Son of God and issue of a maid, sweet Jesus Christ, I solemnly protest and vow to keep this peace inviolable.
By sacred Mohammed, the friend of God, whose holy Al-Quran remains with us, whose glorious body, when he left the world, closed in a coffin mounted up the air and hung on stately Mecca's temple roof, I swear to keep this truce inviolable, of whose conditions and our solemn oaths, signed with our hands, each shall retain a scroll as memorable witness of our league. Now, Sigismund, if any Christian king encroach upon the confines of thy realm, send word, Orcanes of Natolia confirmed this league beyond the Nubius stream, and they will, trembling, sound a quick retreat. So am I feared among all nations.
If any heathen, potentate, or king invade Natolia, Sigismund will send 100,000 horse trained to the war, and backed by stout lanciers of Germany, the strength and sinews of the imperial seat.
I thank thee, Sigismund. But when I war, all Asia Minor, Africa, and Greece follow my standard and my thundering drums. Come, let us go and banquet in our tents. I will despatch chief of my army hence to fair Natolia and to Trebizond, to stay my coming gainst proud Tamburlaine. Friend Sigismund, and peers of Hungary, come, banquet and carouse with us a while, and then depart we to our territories.
Okay, there's lots going on there. Okay, I think the thing we should mention is this is quite a different geography, being that as the canvas is opened out, as we move and we start getting references to Europe coming in, and that this Tamburlaine is a threat to the whole world, not just the areas he was invading before, and that he is such a threat that Christian and Muslim will stand together and vow that they will take him down. And that sort of has a political resonance with some of the things that Elizabeth I will be trying to do in terms of alliances and trying to square the circle of whether Christian and Muslims can work together in harmony, certainly in terms of trade. So there's a little resonance there then. Lots going on there. They're not great friends to start off with, but then they become really overly pally at the end, like they're compensating once they've made that oath. How do we feel about this alliance? Thoughts from the room?
It ain't gonna last.
It's the most dodgy alliance possible.
Yeah.
The Yalta Conference springs to mind.
Wow. No, it's definitely two big swinging dicks.
Yeah.
I mean, really, there's no, I mean, these guys, I mean, Orcanes, good God, what a guy. He will not give in one moment, you know, and he keeps pushing back at Sigismund. That was it. I finished.
Yeah. Anyone else? Anything new to add to that? That I think we've got the measure of these. We've been here before, but in reverse. So in the okay, I'm going to break my rule of pretending we haven't seen the first play. But in the first play, the play opened with two people working against each other who get taken out by Tamburlaine. Now we've got two people working together. Will they threaten Tamburlaine? But returning to the mindset. We're going into the next scene, and Calapine is Sascha, And Callapine got a name check earlier, so he's the son of some chap called Bajazeth. He's a prisoner. There's sort of all sorts of problems there. And Heloise, could I ask you to read Almeida, or please? I don't think anyone else is down to do it. You're the keeper of Callapine, so I don't know if there's chains involved here or how this is presented. But enter Callapine and Almeida, his keeper.
Sweet Almeida, pity the rueful plight of Callapine, the son of Bajazeth, born to be monarch of the Western world, yet here detained by cruel Tamburlaine.
My lord, I pity it, and with my heart wish your release. But he whose wrath is death, my sovereign lord, renowned Tamburlaine, forbids you further liberty than this.
Ah, were I now but half so eloquent to paint in words what I'll perform in deeds, I know thou wilt depart from hence with me.
Not for all Afric, therefore move me not.
Yet hear me speak, my gentle Almeida.
No speech to that end by your favour, sir.
By Cairo runs.
No talk of running, I tell you, sir.
A little further, gentle Almeida.
Well, sir, what of this?
By Cairo runs to Alexandria Bay, Dorotes stream, wherein at anchor lies a Turkish galley of my royal fleet, waiting my coming to the riverside, hoping by some means I shall be released, which, when I come aboard, will hoist up sail, and soon put forth into the Tyrrhene Sea, where, twixt the isles of Cyprus and of Crete, we quickly may in Turkish seas arrive. Then shalt thou see 100 kings and more upon their knees, all bid me welcome home, among so many crowns of burnished gold, to use which thou wilt, all are at thy command. 1,000 galleys manned with Christian slaves I freely give thee, which shall cut at the straits, thwarted with gold of rich America. The Grecian virgins shall attend on thee, skilful in music and in amorous lays, as fair as was Pygmalion's ivory girl or lovely to metamorphosed. With naked negroes shall thy coach be drawn, and as thou rift'st in triumph through the streets, the pavement underneath thy chariot wheels with Turkey carpet shall be covered, and cloth of arras hung about the walls, fit objects for thy princely eye to pierce. 100 bassoes, clothed in crimson silk, shall ride before thee on barbarian steeds, and, when thou goest, a golden canopy enchased with precious stones, which shine as bright as thy fair veil that covers all the world. When Phoebus, leaping from his hemisphere, descendeth downward to the Antipodes, and more than this, for all I cannot tell.
How far hence lies the galley, say you?
O sweet Almeida, scarce half a league from hence.
But need we not be spied going aboard?
Betwixt the hollow hanging of a hill and crooked bending of a craggy rock, the sails wrapped up, the mast and tacklings down, she lies so close that none can find her out.
I like that well. But tell me, my lord, if I should let you go, would you be as good as your word? Shall I be made a king for my labour?
As I am Callapine the emperor, and by the hand of Mahomet I swear, thou shalt be crowned a king, and be my mate.
Then here I swear, as I am Almeida, your keeper under Tamburlaine the Great, for that's the style and title I have yet, although he sent 1,000 armed men to intercept this haughty enterprise, yet would I venture to conduct your grace and die before I brought you back again.
Thanks, gentle Almeida. Then let us haste, lest time be past, and lingering let us both.
When you will, my lord, I am ready.
Even straight, and farewell, cursed Tamburlaine. Now go I to revenge my father's death.
Ooh,
Wow.
unfinished
Oh,
business.
Yeah.
So,
Now the party's getting going.
Yeah. Tamburlaine is the big threat. Everybody's against him, high and low. One little question before to kick off. Before we're into extra time now, so we'll probably stop reading additional text from now. So Almeida, do we think they're going to survive? Do you think the promise is going to be kept?
No.
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 I think Almeida is going to become one of the many, one of the littered bodies.
I must admit, my suspicion is that Almeida will actually dob him in.
Ooh! I like that. I like that. I mean, it's that thing because he makes such a thing of it, and it's interesting so far. Breaking out of the mindset. People who betray other people don't actually do too badly. It's so far. Though that said, if you betray Tamburlaine, it depends who's going to kill him. Because is Callapine perhaps? I know he's made a solemn vow here, but
Accident at sea, Your Honour.
you don't trust people who've betrayed somebody else. Generally speaking, there's a tradition of killing off people, even if they've helped you, that they're not trustworthy. But yeah, it's a callback to he's a new character, but he's doing the same job as it is literally son of Bajazeth. So we are a couple of scenes in. No sign of Tamburlaine yet, but everyone's talking about him. How are you feeling about this particular play?
I think there's quite a long setup going on here before we get in. I mean, there's a lot of this is, I think, almost throat clearing. Looking ahead, that scene 3 starts with the entrance of Tamburlaine. At which point I think we maybe see the main plot. I mean, some of what we've had so far in the first 2 scenes has been, this is what happened in the previous installments.
Yeah.
Or this is the background material.
But it so far doesn't feel like I'm missing out. It doesn't feel like we're going, I don't know what happened, or what happened last time doesn't really matter. We just know that Tamburlaine is this big threat. And everyone wants him deaded.
And I mean that's how the previous play begins anyway. Tamburlaine as a threat off in the distance.
But now he's much more of a clear and present threat.
Yeah. He's an annoyance that they have to deal with in the first. But he is named a lot, obviously, because he's the title character. And also the fact that we have this sort of revenge plot put in. This is new. We didn't have a revenge plot before.
No.
And it's to do with a son, and the question of sons may become significant further into this particular narrative.
And I must admit, I'm still slightly puzzled by the tone of the prologue, because it seems to be giving away an awful lot about what may be happening, and I'm not quite sure what purpose it's serving.
I think it is to set the tone that you know where this is going. I mean, it also is there to go, hey, my last play was really successful, so I had to write this one. Audience demand. It does literally say, it made our poet pen his second part. He may have thought he was onto a winner at the end of part 1, but unless part 1 was adjusted in print to slightly tidy up the join, we know that the 2 parts have been adjusted. And one question that arises from what we've just seen, I don't know whether Baldwin turns up later, but he's announced as a character who enters and then says nothing at all. And I'm wondering whether Baldwin is a comedy character whose dialogue has all been cut. That's just a hypothetical I'm just throwing out there. I don't know. I don't know ahead whether we just know that the comedy's been excised or explicit ha-ha comedy has been excised from the text.
True.
So I don't know whether Baldwin just turns up and in the background says something, ha 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 ha, and then everybody laughs, or not. So he might turn up later. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I can understand the prologue, the first 3 lines fine, but the rest of it does almost seem like it needs spoiler alert.
Well, it's pre-Brecht. It's you don't need to worry about where this is going. We know where it's going. We know these, but how it comes about, it doesn't say. We don't know whether he's doomed because of the people we've just met.
Yeah,
that could be a fault. That could be a something. They might win, and he might be overthrown by them. We haven't been told how he dies.
Kind of in the same way that. Oh, okay. No, I was about to use. Am I allowed to say Romeo and Juliet?
No, you're not.
All flashes.
Okay.
Shall not be mentioned.
Okay, I'll say.
And no
this.
sold.
I'll say this. It almost, the audience knows already. So maybe throughout the play, as they're watching the events, they're having to question to themselves whether they want it to happen. They kind of have this character Tamburlaine in front of them who, might be a really charismatic, really fascinating character. And so the whole time, but who's doing these awful things. So they're kind of questioning to themselves, I know it's not going to end well for him. Am I actually kind of really quite interested in this character, and I kind of want them to carry on and take over the world and match the gods? So it kind of plants heads.
Yeah, I was going to say again going with the Star Wars reference. It's like the last film in the sequence when someone's probably going to die, and they set up so many potential deaths throughout the narrative, and the idea we know that X or Y are going to die. How are they going to die? Or is it now? Is it now? Is it now? Is it them? Who's going to happen? So I wonder if that's sort of complementary with what you're saying there about whether your feelings about them dying as well. That sense of anticipation's there. And Brecht did like Marlowe because he did a version of Edward II, as I recall. So. So there is a sort of connection there in spirit.
One thing that's got me slightly confused, both with the part 1 and with this so far, is that we've got Christian mythology coming into it. We've got Islamic, and we've got the classical Grecian. And I just wonder whether, in some ways, it is actually Marlowe just showing off the breadth of his knowledge and background.
I think the use of all these cultures is deliberate in this play. I don't think it's like where you just throw in different reference points for effect. Where people are coming from, what part of the world they come from, their culture seems very important. Tamburlaine does not care for any of them.
No,
he really isn't interested. And that may or may not get worse later. That may or may not have additional resonances. But it's very interesting. You have these alliances where traditionally you see divisions, and people are uniting against Tamburlaine, and yeah, I don't feel like I'm rooting for them. I'm not that impressed with Orcanes, really. I'm not feeling it. Anyone else feeling it? For any of them?
No.
I think you might feel a bit more for the son of Bajazeth. Do we feel for Callapine? He's got the gift of the gab. He's got a bit of that Tamburlaine gift of the gab vibe going on there.
I think.
Yeah. Sorry,
go William.
I was going to say that he's kind of like the Hand in the Game of Thrones, with the gift of the gab.
Yeah.
The Peter Dingle character.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's right. He's talking his way out of prison. you know, there's his boat. It's definitely over there. There's going to be lots of riches. You'll get all this stuff.
Yeah. All the
Yeah.
bribery. All
Right.
the bribery. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's clearly a game going on with all of them. I mean, obviously, we know right at the very end of Calipus's scene that it's very clear he's going to take revenge on Tamburlaine. Very, very clear. I think that's the big difference between what we've seen, to break the rule, in the previous play, where the first play we don't know what anybody's game is apart from Tamburlaine, but here it's much more bang to the point on everybody's character so far. It's like, oh, okay, right, this is what's happening, right? Oh, okay, quickly catch up,
Yeah.
Okay. Any additional thoughts at this time, or you can talk about part 1 as well as part 2 if you like.
No, I think it's been an interesting exercise so far, and we'll just have to see how it develops.
That's all we can do now.
Can't wait for tomorrow.
Excellent. Right. Well, then we will say goodbye to everyone as we stop the recording before some housekeeping. Thank you very much for watching and for following our journey from the end of Tamburlaine Part 1 and this beginning of the journey with Tamburlaine the Great Part